And now, after years of planning, sweating, and going broke, here is the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
I left the media.
Why they would give this man a podcast is anyone's guess.
Then there is what could only be a bizarre coincidence or something else.
Welcome to the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, sir.
Country music and fine moonshine. Finally, a podcast that lets it all hang out.
Let's level with America.
Got your boots? Ready for some whiskey?
These boots are made for walking.
One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
And now, the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Hey everyone, Jim here, Boots and Whiskey Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Episode 2 of 3, or 1 of 3, or however the hell you're going to watch these or listen to these. Logan Mac is here. And you know what? This is one of those conversations where, and I mean this with all the respect in the world, I had no idea what I was in store for. And I don't even want to say anything. I want you to listen because this is one of those episodes that needs no introduction. The conversation alone is exactly what it is and should be. And I think Logan is doing it the right way. He's absolutely incredible. Just stand-up, stellar dude. So Logan Mac, here it is. And we saw Hardy over the weekend. We'll recap that at the end. Cheers. And we're gonna go from there. So if you want, give us a brief rundown of who you are, why you are, what you're doing, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty along the way.
Yeah. My name's Logan Mac. I am from Purcell, Oklahoma. I currently live in Washington, Oklahoma. And I'm an independent country artist. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I've got 3 little girls and a beautiful wife named Sarah. And they're all on this journey with me, trying to chase this dream. So we've been back at it for a couple years now. We had a little bit of a hiatus, but kind of gaining some ground around Texas and Oklahoma and in the region, and just chasing a dream of playing music for people at night. So
have you been, you said you took a hiatus, right? How long had you been doing it before that?
I started playing guitar when I was about 16, 15 to 16. I had a music class at my high school. It was either choose to draw for your elective or choose to go to general music. And so I went to general music and started playing. And then I didn't play my first live gig till I was about 18. Played there for about a year and a half, maybe closer to 2 years. Went out to Nashville, did that thing, kind of became a cover artist and lost myself a little bit in that process. And that was in 2010 or 11. And then moved back. And so my hiatus was from about 2011 to 2025, really, January of 2025. So about 14 years in between that.
Damn. So you're like really getting back into it.
Yeah.
No,
my first show, and it's actually a pretty cool story. My first live show in 15 years was opening for Radney Foster in Clifton, Texas.
So how does that happen? Like, how do you go from that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, like my dad passed away in June of 2022, and that was really hard on me, and I wrote some stuff down in my phone about his passing, just some wisdom here and there, and then in 2024, I decided to post it to TikTok. I'd finished the song, actually. I just had notes, but in 2024 of July, I was golfing one day, came home, was scrolling through my notes, kind of bored at my lake house, and ran across those notes I'd made back when my dad died and wrote Dance Under Stars in about 5 minutes. And then a few days later, posted it to TikTok. It blew up, went viral. And that's kind of what started it back. I had Capitol Records, Warner Nashville, Elektra, Arista, Virgin, all these getting emails from all these record labels. And how Radney came about was my manager at the time. I agreed to be with a manager out of Nashville, and I was with him for about a year and a half. But he was, we were in the studio one day trying to cut Dance Under Stars, right? It went viral. We were just trying to hurry up and get it cut. And he said, "Hey, I got a friend coming by. He's got to drop something off to me, and it was Radney Foster. And Radney comes in, and I was just starstruck because he was honestly a hero of mine. And I actually had his book, For You to See the Stars, in my guitar case. And when I saw him, I went out there. I stopped recording, and I went out there, and I was like, "Hey, can you sign my book?" And he looked at my book, and he's like, "Man, this thing's been lived in. It's like worn out. You've actually read it." And I said, "Oh yeah, I keep it with me." And he was like, "Well, you know what? I got a little bit of time." And so we go into the studio, and he puts two chairs right in front of each other, like staring right at me like this. And he goes, "All right, I heard your viral song. Todd just played it for me. Anybody can write one song. I want to hear another one." And so, most intimidating part of my life, so I played him another song, and I noticed he got goosebumps when I was playing it, and I was like, "Okay, that's probably a good sign." And after that, I want to write songs with you, and I was like, "Okay." And then we 2 weeks later, we wrote a song called "Tonight in Tulsa" together, and I think it was then that he was like, "Hey, why don't you come open for me in Clifton, Texas?" And at the Bosque Arts Center. And I was like, "All right, cool." So that was in January of 2025. But the best part was I played like 7 songs for my opener. And I come off stage, and about one song in, Radney left the green room and set side stage for my whole show, which was really cool. But it also kind of made me nervous, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And when I got off stage, he was like, "Holy moly, man." He's like, I didn't know you could do all that." And I was like, "Oh, well, I appreciate it." I said, "I was really nervous. This is my first show in 15 years. And he goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, the last show I played was 15 years ago in a bar with 3 people." And he was like, "Logan." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "To be honest, if you would have told me you hadn't played a show in 15 years, I wouldn't have had you open for me. I would have been scared about it." So we fooled him. But ever since then, he's just kind of clung on as a mentor, and him and his wife Cindy are close friends now. And my wife and his wife they talk weekly. I think they talk more than me and Radley do. But yeah, he just kind of took me under his wing, man. And I've been opening for him, 8 to 10 times a year ever since. So we're actually about to go on I leave Tuesday. We're gonna go to Chicago, Illinois, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and Columbus, Ohio. Me, him, and Kelly Willis.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a pretty funny story though. He had no clue. I don't even think I didn't tell my manager at the time, even to the extent of like how long it had been since I actually played to another human.
Damn.
And he was like, "Well, we couldn't tell." And I was like, "Well, that's probably because I work in construction and I own a general contract, and I'm thrown into meetings that I don't know anybody and pressure all the time and just have to
Right.
talk my way out of it, you know?"
Right.
And
Yeah.
I said, so I relied on those skills and my meeting skills. And he was like, "Well, you're a natural. It's going to be good, you know?" So obviously that was like reassuring, to hear from somebody that's been there, done that, and on their way back.
Damn.
So
because I was going to ask, like, what did you do in that 15 years? But you answered that question.
Yeah, no, just
now,
lit. To
did
be
you
honest, that whole 15 years, I really didn't play guitar a whole lot either until my
No.
kids got old enough to like music. That's
Yeah.
what turned the guitar back on, as they were listening to music and enjoying it. And I was like, shoot, I'm about to be dad of the year because I can play all those songs, And so we would literally set out in my garage, and her little girlfriends would sit there, and I'd just play songs, and they'd sing karaoke to them. And that's really when it was like I knew that bug was still in me,
Yeah.
and I was like, I love music still,
Now, did you just drop everything and pick this up full time, or like what? Like, because I'm like
No.
amazed. I'm amazed at all of this.
No, I still work 50 hours a week.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I still run my dirt. I have a construction company. I'm a general contractor newly. I just started getting into general contracting 2 years ago. But my main job that I do with my construction company is commercial earthwork.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm out at dirt jobs still weekly. I usually drive straight through the night from shows to get back on Monday morning for Monday morning safety meetings and all that. So
Damn.
now I still work 50 hours a week, and I kind of right now with music, just because it hasn't, fully taken off to the point that I feel like I can support my family on it.
Sure. Yeah.
So I just want a really big job at the Tulsa airport and in Tulsa today. So I'm
That's
still
all.
bidding every day, and
Congratulations.
I have, but no, the general contracting side's cool. I just finished a $12 million project for Lorenzo Kane. I built a sports complex for him. He won a World Series with the Royals, but I just built his sports complex in Goldsby, Oklahoma. So
That's awesome.
that helped when all this viral stuff happened,
I'm
because we
sure.
were
Oh,
on
I'm
one
sure.
job for 18 months. And
Right.
so it was a lot easy. It was a lot easier than I will say it is now, where I'm bidding dirt jobs and having to keep the guys busy and, you know, but it really, to be honest, like it works out with music because most of the music business is done after hours.
Right.
You don't started. So like, for instance, next week, we're driving to Chicago and I'm a big calendar guy. I've already got my calendar spelled out that I'm going to bid jobs 4 hours a day during the mornings. And then we're going to go to the news station, do those interviews, and then go play the show.
Yeah.
So no, I'm a busy man, but I don't, I think I think you can hear it in my writing. I'm not sure I would write all the stuff I write if I wasn't staying in that everyday
Right.
grind of
Yeah.
like, this sucks.
Yeah. 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 Trust
So
me. I get it.
it keeps me real and honest, and so I appreciate that. But also at the same time, I think I'm such a busybody that I would be looking around and like I'd probably mow the lawn 3 times a week if I didn't have
Now,
all
are
that to do.
your girls like close in age?
My oldest daughter's 10, and then my middle daughter's 6, and my youngest daughter's 5.
Okay.
So
All right. Yeah. Because
the
like
bottom two are they gang up on the older one. So
I'm sure.
they're 18 months apart.
I'm sure.
So,
I have a 10 and 6, and my 10-year-old, like I've been doing this now half of his life, right? This is year 5 of the podcast, and he's 10. So I started this when he was 5, and he's starting to get like he's getting to an age where like I can bring him to certain things.
right.
And like, I'm sure your girls, if it hasn't already, it will get to this point where it's like, wow, Dad, you get to do something cool. You know what I mean? Like,
They went on a run with us. A few months ago, we went to Galveston. We played the Old Quarter in Galveston, and then the next night, where did we play? We played Plano. We did Austin, Galveston, Plano, and they went with that. To be honest, they go to most of my shows as long as it doesn't like severely contradict with school. Like we'll miss a Friday.
Sure.
So they go to most of them. But it's funny at the Old Quarter, they have the guy set up a monitor and a screen in the green room for them to be able to watch Dad. And when I got done, I think that was like, that's just different when they're sitting out in the crowd. I think their attention is elsewhere, just looking around, but they were sitting back there kind of like locked in on listening to Dad. And when I got off stage, my oldest was like, "You're pretty cool, Dad." Like, and so that was cool to see them, but I'm also really big on bringing them along. And I think this day and age, everybody, the main question I get at the house is like, well, how are you doing it with the kids?
Yeah.
Are you missing them? And I'm like, I bring them to most stuff, so I'm not really missing them. But it's cool. I think it speaks a lot to who I am. And if you didn't think my kids were coming, you didn't listen to my music very much, because my kids and my wife are kind of peppered through all my music. But
And
it's been cool.
It speaks a lot to your wife too, right? Like what you're doing is great, and you're a busy guy and all that, but like you need that support too, because without that, you can't do it.
Dude, my wife's the rock star, to be honest, not me.
Yeah.
I just show up and sing the songs. She runs my merch. She runs my website. She sells my merch at the shows. She gets in good with all the people at the venues. They wind up loving her by the time we leave, so they're always really nice. And no, she's the behind the scenes person for sure. So I wouldn't be able to do it without her.
So were you doing this? Like you said, were you guys married and together before you took your hiatus?
No. So
Okay.
I was in Nashville for a little stint. I kind of stayed in Nashville for a while, and was trying to get in writers' rooms, and like playing cover songs at night to make money, stuff like that. And I just wound up, one day I woke up and didn't love it, didn't love it anymore. And I was like, this is miserable. I want to go back to Oklahoma. Well, right around the same time, I'd been talking to her a little bit, and she had joked. I had to talk my wife into dating me for about a year. We were best friends before we dated, and finally I was like, dude, just date me. Like, I like you, you like me. We both know that. But how that started was, she jokingly one day, she's like, well, I might date you if you ever move back to Oklahoma and get a real job. And I was like, okay, deal. So I moved back to Oklahoma and got in the oil field, and like within 2 months of getting in the oil field, I snagged her, and ever since then we've just been cruising through life. So, but no, I kind of took that hiatus, whenever we were about to get married. I played a wedding in Oklahoma, and after that, she was pregnant shortly after that, and so I just kind of shifted my focus to, okay, we're gonna live on a single income. My wife's not gonna work; she's gonna raise our kid at home and be a stay-at-home mom, and it just was like not in the cards at that point. And so I was like, all right, here we go, and then kind of learn to be an adult and have a career, and all that stuff, and kind of push music to the side uh, for a while. And then when my dad passed, you know, I knew I wanted to get back into it. And I joked to my wife, a few years before I actually did, early 2020, I was like, I'm going to play music again one day, just kind of joking about it. And it wound up happening. When my dad passed away, though, he had asked me about 2 weeks before. He printed out a audition for The Voice, and he's like, hey, I know you think that you got your career in control and you know where the trajectory of your life, but he's like, man, it kills me to not see you singing. And
Man.
and that was one of our last conversations before he had a stroke. So I held on to that, and I was like, how it is being a man. I was just like, I told him, okay, I would think about it. And so it just kind of felt like I had to do something, just to keep my word with my dad. That's kind of a tough conversation as for the last one, when you tell him I'm going to do something. So that's really, I was just like, it took me 2 years after he died to like, okay, I'm going to do it. And it really bugged me for the 2 years. I remember being at work and it just bugged me, hung around with me for 2 years. The last conversation I had with my dad, I told him I was going to play music again or try it. So it really drove me and helped me a lot. I feel like he was there with me a lot through writing this first album, and just how easy they came about, the songs. And he's pulled some strings that it's not a random win, And I told my wife that I was recognizing some stuff going on, and I said, babe, this isn't a random win. These aren't random. I think my dad's up in heaven just sitting there pulling strings and laughing, going, wait till he sees this.
Damn.
So it's been a wild ride. We got some really, really, really exciting things coming up that honestly just kind of blow my mind a little bit. So I'm really blessed, and I'm really thankful, that I didn't ever question the road I've been on the last few years, and I just kind of bit down and stayed on it,
Yeah.
So
Well, now that there isn't a dry eye listening to this fucking this episode, what are some things about this album that really kind of stand out with when you talk about dad pulling the strings and all that? Like, what are some moments that you were like, oh shit?
For one, when I went down to do the album, I had we'd recorded this album 3 or 4 times in Nashville, and it just never felt good, to be honest. It just always felt like I just didn't like it. I was like, I don't know. It doesn't sound like me. It sounded, nothing against Gary Allen, but I felt like it sounded like a Gary Allen record. And I was like, that's far from what I want. I love Gary Allen, but not with my songs, and I felt like just out of the blue, I got hooked up with Logan Ryan randomly, and we still haven't figured out. I got invited, my booking agent got reached out by, I guess, his team maybe, to open up for him at Luckenbach, Texas. And so when I got that gig, I found out he really loved Dance Under Stars, and Logan had lost his dad too. And when I got that gig, I was talking to Logan about who produced his last record. And he was like, man, this guy named David Beck out of San Marcos. And so on a whim, we got a hold of David Beck, and just like from the moment that it started, I just felt really good about it, and like we literally, so I went down to San Marcos, and the night before I recorded my first album, just kind of had like some weird things go on. Me and my manager kind of wound up splitting ways the night before recording my first album ever. But it also like it challenged me because I was sitting in my camper that night that I drove down there to stay in, and I was sitting in my camper and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this exactly how I want. Like no one else is here to tell me do this, do that. And I really like restructured. I stayed up all night and I restructured some of the songs and changed the vibe on some of the songs, changed some chord progressions and tunings, and just really like studied. That was the first time I studied what I was doing. And I just felt like my dad was there with me through that whole process, because I never questioned it, what I was doing. And we went into that studio the next day. That was the first time me and David ever met, was the day I recorded my album. We recorded my whole album in 3 days, and just we never hit a roadblock, and stylistically what was crazy is like we recorded every song on the album live. So like me, David Beck on bass, and Dee Stribling on drums. That's how we sat there and counted it in and played it live. We didn't do any, the only overdubs we did was like fiddle. So we cut Till the Ground first, though. That was the first one. And we went in there and he was like, all right, just tell me what you're feeling. And we cut it. And first take, we nailed it. Like that's what's on the album. And so it just set that tone for the whole week of recording, But I just, man, just so random. So like I wrote a song called Redbird about my dad as well. And I'm driving to the studio, which is a house. And guess what's painted as a mural on the house next to it? A redbird. Huge on the side of this house. And I'm like, okay, called my wife immediately, kind of emotional. I'm like, well, dad's with me, you know. And then through the shows, there's just, my dad's I have a video of my dad driving in his Jeep. Right before he passed away, he randomly like recorded himself driving. It was kind of goofy. And then when he passed away, I found it on his phone. It was the last video he took on his phone. It's just like a selfie of him driving in his Jeep. He thought he was cool. But Morgan Wallen's song "Quitting Time" was playing in the background. And then for instance, I get invited randomly to go play Realtree, the camo company.
Mm-hmm.
I got invited to play their 40th anniversary private party in Nashville, out of the blue. Always been a deer hunter. My dad wore Realtree his whole life. Out of the blue, got invited. Jeez. So I go there, and it was at Luke Bryan's bar on Broadway, and I was told I was going to be one of the openers. Well, I get there and I'm sound checking, and guess what song is playing when I'm sound checking? That Morgan Wallen, "Quitting Time," and it made me think of my dad. And I look to the left, and one of the main Realtree people come in, and they go, "Hey, you're going to be on the main set. We don't want you to open now." And I go, "Oh, okay. Who am I playing with?" And they said, "Rhett Akins and Josh Phillips."
Jesus
and I'm like,
Christ.
Okay, Rhett Akins was one of my dad's favorite artists, and it's just, there's just so many instances that he showed up, in the first hotel number when I went to Nashville, the 3 letters of the hotel was his birth date, the month and the day, it was 12/22 was our room, and that's my dad's birthday, is December 22nd, so just so many things, I just tie back to him. And we walked across, I actually have a tattoo of it. This bird, well, where is it? Yeah, back here. This bird, it's like a Jimmy Buffett bird, right? Walk out of the hotel, freaked out. Hotel numbers are my dad's birthday. Well, guess what's next to us? Margaritaville with the bird, and I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So he's definitely been with me through the process. I think he's been with me on some embarrassing moments too, like walking into Warner, Nashville to realize I blew out the crotch of my jeans to meet them. And I'm sitting in the meeting and I look down and I got a huge hole in my jeans. And I'm like, oh no. But that was his sense of humor. But no, he's just, man, he's been with me. It's you get to a point in your life, hopefully everybody does, especially when they lose someone, that you can kind of start recognizing those winks.
Yeah.
And I call them God winks, and there's just so many instances through this process that I've seen my dad, and seen, just solid proof enough for me, that he's with me through this process. And so it's been an up and a down deal, but I think all the roads are finally looking like they're leading, like I said before, we're not getting random wins anymore.
Right.
It feels like it's going to happen, you
Yeah.
know? So really enthused about that.
That's awesome, dude. That's a great story. It's one of those that, I think it's very human. A lot of people can relate to something like that, right? And it just goes to show, I've never been much of a religious person, right? But like, I'm also not naive enough to not think that there's something bigger out there, right?
Right.
And like you said, like, God winks, those are God moments that,
Yeah.
there's no, to me, right? And I'm kind of like a simple person, right? Like, there's no denying that.
No,
You
not
can't
at
see
all.
all these things and be like, oh no, there's nothing out, there's
Right.
nothing
He's
bigger than
just
us.
randomly winning.
Right.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm telling you, it's been wild. It's been the whole deal there's just been so many moments, that it's like, okay, I'm on the right path.
Yeah.
I'm on the right path,
Yeah.
And my dad always told me, he said, hey, if it's a long way up, it's a long way down. And I never understood that. He told me that since I was probably 8 years old. It's a long way up. It's a long, we'd be in batting practice. And I'd be like, I don't want to sit here and hit 100 balls today. It's a long way up. It's a long way down. And I never understood that. But now I connected the dots perfectly with music because, when I wrote Dance Under Stars and it went viral, I naively thought in 2 weeks I was going to be at the Grammys.
Right.
Because it was just like everything was happening.
Sure.
All these people, they're flying me to LA, they're flying me to they're flying me to wherever, went around the world basically. And then when the viralness kind of started to go like this, I understood what my dad meant by that. Because if it's a short way up, it's a short way down.
Yeah.
And that's quick. And I realized that I want to get my boots muddy, and there might be moments I need to tuck my jeans into my boots because we're that deep, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna grow as an artist, and I'm gonna have a long sled down, because I'm writing for longevity, and I'm working, what I'm trying to do is the long path, but like I said, it's gonna be a long way back too, and I think we're gonna get boots on the ground and go do it the old fashioned way, and that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years is just going and getting fans, going and playing live music, getting fans, talking to them before the show, talking to them after the show, and just being vulnerable with them, and it's working. So
what right now where you sit, right? What do you think what would it take you right now today to forget about the financial side of it? And I know that's the biggest thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what sort of opportunity would have to land in your lap for you to be like, you know what? This is what get rid of sell the company, do whatever. This is what I'm doing. This is what I can do.
I don't think it's really like something specific that will happen. I think it's more so, I like to look at it as I'm preparing for that already.
Okay.
And I'm making the grocery list right now. I would like to think that process is already in action because I wouldn't be working Monday through Thursday nights and leaving at 3 a.m. Friday morning and traveling across the nation just to get back Sunday night. just to have fun, right? So I already believe that I'm on that path. I don't think it's an if, I think it's a when.
When, yeah.
And, at the end of the day, I just got to keep opening doors to see if anybody's in there.
Yeah.
So I would sell everything I have tomorrow. Really the only thing for me would be to see the calendar, and say, okay, we got enough, we got enough gigs to go tour the nation. And I feel like, knock on wood, I think I'm really close to that. Like, I feel internally like I'm about 3 months from doing music full time. So, I just believe it. And I'm also big on manifestation, and I tell myself it every day. I tell myself that this is what I was born to do. And God's never steered me the wrong way. It's felt like it sometimes. There's been moments that I sit and go, man, why am I in this position? Why did I just get laid off from the oil field? Why am I what am I doing? I just had a baby a week ago, and I'm going to leave my construction job and go start my own company. And oh, by the way, I've been in a new house for a week that I just built, and in that moment is when I said, shift, we're going to do this, So I've always been a dreamer, and I've always dreamed like a kid. And I think that's important, because when you watch and getting to watch my kids dream, was really like, I sat there and I said, how the hell can I expect to tell them, chase your dreams, kids, if their daddy doesn't truly do it, And so I really set out and I said, okay, I'm going to dream like a kid. I'm going to not worry monetarily, financially. I'm going to go just because I want to. That's why I'm going to do it, because it's my dream. And, at the end of the day, it's like some people dream at night longer than others, and some people wake up sooner than others,
Yeah.
And so the process of the dream too is to figure out, when I get into the dream and when it's a wake up call,
Yeah.
But I want my kids to see that their daddy at 34 years old turned his life upside down to chase a dream, because that is more important to me than me giving them all the money in the world and having this big retirement. Because at the end of the day, money doesn't do that for you.
No.
There's money can buy you things, and money can buy you instances, but you can't be in those instances without happiness, And so it's just more of a moral to me of like, I don't want to half-ass anything. And at the same time, I really want my kids to look back one day when I die. For one, they're going to be able to listen to me on the radio. And that is so special to me, that they're going to always be able to hear their daddy's voice. But number two is I want them to look back and not be afraid to chase something in their latter part of their life, because their daddy did.
Dude.
So
I don't want to, you've shared so much about you, right? Little, anybody that's watched this show on a regular basis knows the story I'm about to tell, right? And we just kind of talked about it, about like, God putting certain things in where they belong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I literally had this conversation this morning where, and it happens all the fucking time, unfortunately, where, I had mentioned to you at the beginning of this about how important it was for you to have the support you do with your wife and all that, right? And I say that because, fortunately, unfortunately, whatever, like, you'd get a different story from her, and at this point, I don't even care that I'm telling this story this way. I never got that support.
Right.
And with this, and that's why, not the underlying reason, there's a lot of other reasons, right? But like,
right.
Why my marriage didn't work out, and then like, I get a lot of shit and a lot of pushback about, you're doing this podcast, you're chasing this dream, you don't get paid for it, you don't get any of these things for it, it's taking time away from this, that, and the other thing. And like,
but you're passionate about it.
Right. Like,
it's in your veins.
Right. I pay my child support. I show up on my weekends when I have my kids.
Right.
I get to my weekly dinners that I'm allotted.
Right.
Like,
you know what though? At the end of the day, on your headstone, all it has is 2 dates and a dash. It doesn't have accolades.
Right.
And so it's like you gotta always be sure that you're turning where you want to turn and where you
Right.
feels right, and
And like,
and like I said, I know a ton of artists that their spouse didn't support it. And it just I literally feel like a dime, a
you are.
dime and a stack of
Yeah.
dollars, because it's just like it's so rare for my wife. Like I said, she's the real MVP, But going back to what you said, it's like that can make or break your passion, whenever you don't have the support. I couldn't imagine doing what I did. It would
Yeah.
it would be defeating,
You know,
you know.
and it goes back to what you said. Like, there's been a lot of things that have happened and a lot of conversations that I've had where I said to myself, you know what? This isn't that important, and like, because like I hear the noise, right? But like, if I quit my passion, what does that show my boys? That's the way I justify it, right?
Right.
Like,
I live by a scripture. And like I said, I'm not on here to talk about I'm a Bible thumper, right?
no,
I am a sinner that needs savior.
sure,
Every day I start over with that clock, and my mouth gets me in trouble a lot. But there's scripture in Matthew, and it talks about basically what it says is you may not understand the path I have for you now, but soon you will. Um, and I live by that every day. And I always challenge, my friends when they're going through times of wondering, that clears it up for me. Is it's like we don't have to wonder anymore, because you're gonna find out. And when you find that moment, and we all find it in different parts of our life, yours might be 10 years from now, mine was 2 years ago, right? But when you find that moment, that's when you realize, like, okay, I get it now. I found that puzzle piece that
yeah,
I've been missing for 3 years out of the bag, and I
yep,
just put it in there. And
yeah,
there's nothing better than that,
nope,
And I think I hope everybody deserves that in their life when they find that moment. But for me, that's been music, like finding that plug of what's my purpose, who am I, and I don't think, man, I tell you what, if I would have married like the girl I dated in high school, we wouldn't be talking or no, it's just
sure,
God's got his path,
yeah,
and you don't have to be religious to believe that
no,
either.
absolutely
You know
not.
what I mean? You don't have to be religious at all to believe that you're on a path in this world, and that flowers grow in your yard for a reason,
Hmm.
but no, it's been a huge part of the journey is having my wife, just to, I mean, let's be honest. Who wants to sit and listen to all the shit musicians go through?
Right.
Like that's enough right there. Just
Uh-huh.
saying how your day went and who made you mad and who didn't, who wouldn't give you a chance. And yet there she is every day, and we serve each other though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every day we wake up and we serve each other.
And it's huge. It really is, and it's, and I'm not, I want to, I want to be clear that I'm not shit talking my ex-wife at all. Like, she made the choices she had to do because she thought that's what was best for her. And that's fine. Right. And, but it goes back to those moments, especially doing this, where, now that my oldest is 10, and I can, like I was saying, I can start bringing him to things and doing things. Like I brought him to PBR when it was in Boston at the beginning of the year. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and we had a moment, where the garden here in Boston is empty, and it's just him and I, and it's the dirt, the gate, and us.
Wow.
And I have pictures of him just kind of like looking around like in awe, right?
Well, and that's what's cool is y'all both painted your memories.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right,
Those are ones you can't capture, but
right.
when you close your eyes and think about that, he's gonna see that
Yeah.
forever.
And then,
You know?
it's funny because like we go into like the media side of the building and all this stuff. And like he got a really cool experience for being 10. And a couple of weeks later, his mother had gotten Celtics tickets. And he's like, and he gets there and he's doing all the things. And he's like, well, Dad, it wasn't like when we came here.
Got him.
And it's
Let's
like,
go. You got the tally that day.
yeah,
I
I was
love
like,
it.
well, and then so his mom
Yeah.
and my ex-wife are two different people. And
Oh, I love that.
so she says to me, "You've spoiled the shit out of this kid already."
Hey,
And I'm like,
whatever.
you know what? I'm, and then, a couple weeks after that, I shoot an email like these are, you build relationships. This is what this industry
Right.
is. You build relationships, right? And I sent an email to Lee Bryce's team because he was here doing a show and an acoustic thing, and his mom had gotten him ticket. He big Lee Bryce guy, and so I sent an email and I was like, hey, is there any chance that my kid can meet Lee before the show? Like we're going, like not looking for a ticket or anything like that. Like just,
Right.
not even 15 minutes later, they're like, yep, absolutely. We'd love to see him.
Come on.
Yeah. It was like, and I get to be a part of all that. Like, and that was,
Right.
it was awesome.
How cool is that? And that's a
Yeah.
core memory that y'all will have,
Yeah.
for forever. And, losing my dad, I understood that now. My mind doesn't go back to what I got at Christmas
Right.
or the mongoose bike I had or the game that dad got mad at me because I wasn't trying. My mind goes back to fishing at Blue River with dad. Me and dad driving all the way to Georgia to pick up a four-wheeler,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
those are those core moments that you're building and like going back to my kids, that's with this dream is like that's what I'm my biggest accolade isn't getting a song on a certain chart or a certain playlist. It ends with the biggest accolade is like showing my kids there's a whole world out there and you don't have to be what this town says you have to be you know So they've seen 35 states in their young years.
That's
In the
awesome.
last 2 years, they've seen 35 states. So
That's awesome.
I just hope that they spread their wings and fly and do it because their mom and daddy weren't ever scared to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And that's exactly it. Now, I know you're super busy, and I'm so grateful that you've jumped on here and did this. Like it means more to me than you'll ever know. But what is something you want people to take out of your music when they listen to it after like having heard this conversation?
I hope that they can, kind of relate to the fact of a lot of my music finds the positive in a negative situation. And I think in this day and age, the world we live in, everybody wants to be mad at each other and everybody wants to pick a fight with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that my music is one of those shows that they can come and everybody can kind of get their emotions out, get whatever feeling they need to get out, through my music.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing to me because I think music, can be written politically, but I think it should never feel politically at a show. I
Sure.
think we should never, I think music should be, a mattress that people that are hurting or happy or this or that can go lay on and find common ground in,
Yep. I agree.
I just, if they listen to the words enough, I think they're going to know my heart and where I'm at and know that, my music is always a safe place for them.
Right. It's
So,
funny you say that because I say it here and in my personal life all the time where like I love artists that politically I agree with. I love artists that I don't agree with, right? But like when I'm at a show, I'm a big shut up and sing guy. Like
right.
I'm
Yeah.
not there to get lectured. I'm not whether I agree with you or not, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
both things can be accurate.
Yeah, it should be a safe place to where
Yeah.
there's nothing like that. And now you can go into how you wrote the song, and talk about that, but like it should never be I think this way and you should too.
Right. Exactly.
And you usually get it with politics and religion. And I mean, two of my best friends are atheists, not that I'm not working on,
Sure.
but you know what? At the end of the day, it's like we should just love people for who they are in the moment they
Yeah,
are.
absolutely.
And that's what I try to do. And I don't like all the politics and music, man.
Yeah, no,
It
me
drives me
neither.
crazy. I'm like, why are we fighting? Why is everybody trying to be better than everybody else? Just try to be better than you were yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, but no, I would definitely, my listeners, after listening to this podcast and just going through my music catalog, I would hope that their reaction would be like, man, he sings really honest songs. That's all I'm going after.
Well, I think you're doing it the right way, and you've got a lot going on, and you know, from what I can see and what I can tell, like not that what I think matters much, but like I think you're closer than the 3 months that you think you have.
I hope so, man. But either way, I'm just enjoying the process and enjoying learning, and getting to talk to people like you has been really cool
Yeah,
because um the friends that we've been able to make over the last 2 years have impacted my life, so much. And just the conversations that I get to have, I think it's made me a better human being.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, we don't always get to talk like this every
No,
day. You know
nope,
what I
sure
mean?
don't.
We there's days that we wake up and we work and we eat because it's dinner and we go to bed because it's dark, you know. And so days like today where we can sit and just express ourselves and talk to each other and all that has been a blessing, through the just the like you said earlier, just the connections, man. It's like one big family. And I've really enjoyed that because I'm a quiet guy, believe it or not. Outside of my work, I don't hang out with a lot of people here, and so like I've really grown to have a road family, in different states that we get to go and the beautiful thing about that is you have absolutely no reason to like me, and I have absolutely no reason to like you. I don't know what your mother did when she was 20 to hold it against you. I'm going off of what's physically in front of me and the tangibles. And that's what I've found the most shocking on the road is we've made so many friends from so many highs and lows, and one person's a millionaire and one person, spent his last dollar to be at the show. And the one thing is like they had no reason to be there other than they liked music and they liked my message, and it's just been a comfortable space to be in for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
So
man. Well, like I said, you're doing it, and I'm excited to see as I'm excited to see how this thing continues to grow for you.
yeah,
And
we got some cool stuff. We got a
yeah,
big announcement today, actually. Our Live at the Print Shop episode is announcing today. So that's going to be cool, and getting all these podcasts I'm really excited about
yeah,
that
yeah,
to see where it goes and hopefully this Boots and Whiskey podcast, it's already a big deal, but hopefully after this episode, people are going to go look at it and we're all going to get blessed out of the
yeah.
project.
I hope you're right, man. And next time, have you been up here yet? Up in the Boston area?
I have not.
All
I'm
right.
hoping I'm going to, but I have not.
Well,
No.
when you do get here, because it's not a hope, it's when you do,
Yeah,
we'll have to get together and say hey.
absolutely.
All right,
Yeah.
man.
No, I look forward to that, man.
Same here, man. Well, congratulations on everything, and we look forward to seeing more from you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Anytime, buddy.
All right.
See
We'll
ya.
see you.
Hey everyone, Jim here, Boots and Whiskey Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Logan Mac. I don't even know why I just introduced that the way I did. Do you know why, George?
Jesse.
Yeah, see, he doesn't know either. Uh, but yeah, Logan, just absolutely incredible, dude. Like I said at the beginning, we saw Hardy this weekend. McCoy Moore opened that show. His set was very short, but very, very engaging. Absolutely incredible guy. I wish I would have had more time to go and see him in the merch line and say hello. Muscadine Bloodline absolutely killed it again. I'm going to say this. I was a little disappointed in their set because they missed out on a lot of songs that they should have, I think, played. They didn't play 1090, which I thought was wild, and some others. But you know what? So I don't get paid to determine what their set is. So whatever. But Hardy put on a great show again. I'll say this: last year's show was much better than this year's show. Um, the I think Hardy missed some songs, misstepped on some songs. We could, I'm obviously when you have a catalog like he does, you can play kind of like whatever. But from the first time I saw Hardy to this time, there's a lot of songs I'm missing. I'm not gonna lie to you. But anyway, that's a review. So Logan Mac, thank you for being here. Thank you all for tuning in. Austin Snell is also here this week, and Sterling Elza is also here this week. Released both of those. So Thanks for tuning in, and go check out those other ones, and we'll see you next Monday. Cheers.